Hello and welcome back to the video notes. We are now going into topic three, which is going to look at the civilizations of Asia. So we're going to be going through India, China, Southeast Asia, Japan, looking at this part of the world. First place I'd like first to look is at the Delhi Sultanate and Mughal India and look at how Islam began to influence the Indian subcontinent between the years 500 and 1650. The Delhi Sultanate started in the 13th century when a group of Muslims, largely Turkish people, began to come into northern India. Um, they introduced Persian and Turkish culture to India. They began to have people convert mainly from the lower caste in India to Islam. And so northern India, particularly in the western and eastern parts, is still today very, very Muslim influenced. And of course, Pakistan and Bangladesh broke off from India in the 1940s, and largely those were Muslim areas. Um, in the late 14th century, there was a Mongol invasion that came into to northern India. They wreaked a lot of havoc and destruction and pretty much weakened the Sultanate. Um, Initially, Muslims and Hindus had a lot of hostility towards one another, but over time, there started to be a lot more cultural accommodation with each one. Gradually, you start to see a culture that begins to take elements of both religions, both cultures, and blend them together. So you really do have this mix of Hindu and Muslim culture beginning to develop, particularly in northern India. One of the things that comes out of this mixing is a brand new religion called Sikhism, which is actually the number five religion in the world with about 25 million followers. They were founded by a man named Nanak. He was their guru, their leader. And one of the things that Sikhism seeks to do and thought it could create peace was by blending together some elements of Hinduism and Islam. Um, so you have a mixture here of some things that are both Hindu and Muslim. They believe that there's one God. They reject the idea of caste completely, that all people are equal. Men take the name Singh, which means lion, and women take the name Kaur, which means princess. Um, they stress a lot of values that a lot of religions would find to be admirable: trustfulness, trust, loyalty, being productive, sharing, integrity, spirituality. They're also noted, the men are, for having these five things on their person. And so, like for instance, they carry a knife, they carry a comb. They have things that they carry with them that are symbolic of this faith. In the 16th century, there was another group of people that invaded who were a mixture of Turks and Mongols, called, and eventually became known as the Mughals. They covered India to the middle of the 19th century when the British took over. They ruled most of India, and their most famous leader is a man called Akbar, who was particularly noted for his tolerance. He married Hindu women, Christian women. He basically eliminated all the distinctions that made Muslims more important, and really stressed that all people in his kingdom were equal. And he's still remembered and revered in India today for that reason. One of his descendants was named Shah Jahan, and you probably will remember him more for the tomb that he built for his wife called the Taj Mahal. And we're going to look at some examples of these pictures, and see just how magnificent the structure is. Going to China, there's two dynasties that I'd like for us to be familiar with: the Tang and the Song dynasties, that represent the golden age, the cultural height of Chinese civilization. The Tang dynasty uh, did a lot to streamline government. to make the bureaucracy, the machinery of government work more efficiently. They brought back civil service exams that was based on the study of Confucian teachings. They also experimented with land reform, taking land from people that accumulated a lot of it and making sure that farmers had adequate land to survive on. The Song Dynasty, which replaced them, was particularly noted for improving agricultural production, particularly with rice. They had an open border policy with trade, so that actually stimulated and encouraged trade with surrounding areas. They also made several technological advances, like the compass, uh, shipbuilding, gunpowder, and these are things that eventually made their way to the West. They also had some tributary states, states that were technically independent, but they paid yearly for the privilege of being free and acknowledging the superiority of the Chinese. These would be the Vietnamese, the people of Tibet, Korea. They had to, to stay independent. This is what they had to do. Sometimes they rebelled, like with the Vietnamese. Some accomplishments. Um, the Tang and the Song both are noted for in their art, particularly in their paintings, but also with their poetry and emphasis on balance and harmony within nature. They were tremendously influenced by Buddhism, and so you start to see this in a lot of their art and architecture. We're going to look at some examples of these things. They developed porcelain, which became one of their major trade export items to Europe. And with literature, probably the most famous poet that China produced is a man named Li Bo. And so we'll look at some examples of his poetry. So this concludes our notes for lessons 1 and 2, and I'll come back for lessons 3 and 4. Okay, thank you.